What's happening, friends? Today's episode is brought to you in part by LensRentals.com. Lens Rentals is the largest online rental provider for photography, videography, and lighting equipment and accessories in the United States. They carry camera bodies and lenses in every format from every major manufacturer and all the audio, lighting, and support accessories needed to cover any kind of shoot, from a family holiday card to a commercial advertising job. All equipment purchase is sold within 2 years, so customers are assured that their stock is always in like-new condition. Head over, use the code ROADIE15 when you check out. That's ROADIE15 at LensRentals.com.
What's happening, roadies? This is Amanda Davis.
This is Michael Alago.
What's happening, roadies? This is Meegan Holmes, and you're listening to Roadie Free Radio.
What's up, roadies? My name is Larry Milburn, and this is Roadie Free Radio, your VIP pass to meet and greet the stars behind the scenes of the music and film business. All right. What is happening, roadies? Welcome back to yet another episode of Roadie Free Radio. I am super excited to have you. This is our 175th episode. I cannot believe it. 175th, man. Thank you so much for coming along for the ride. For all these episodes. Whatever it is I'm trying to say, man. Thank you. It really means a lot. My guest this week, we've got a great episode. My guest is Meegan Holmes, live touring professional Meegan Holmes, currently doing sales and is the general manager at 8th Day Sound in Los Angeles. She's been out with Tool, the Black Crowes, Queens of the Stone Age, Natalie Merchant. It's a long list, man. 25, 30 years of doing this. She's got a long list. This was a great interview. I was very excited to have her on the show. We're going to get to that in just a moment. First up, thank you for all of the reviews people have been leaving over at iTunes. It really means a lot. If you haven't done so, think about heading over to iTunes, dropping me a rating, dropping just a sentence even of how much you like the show. Or, you know what, look, if you don't like the show, that's cool too. I take it all, man. I take it all. We got some happy birthday love to give out. Looks like we got a kind of a 50-50 split here between artists and roadies or techs, wherever you happen to fall on the spectrum and would like to be known as a roadie or a tech. I got Albert Rogers, Matt Slocum, Emmanuel Gigi Pedron, and Sean Quackenbush. Happy birthday going out to all of you guys. We hope you're well. We hope you're healthy. We hope you're hanging on in there. We did lose some folks from the road this last week. Steve Dunaway, Conrad Soriano, Vinny Kowalski all left us too soon, and they are at the great gig in the sky. So much love from our family to all of your families, and rest in peace, my friends. Hey, don't forget, we got a new sponsor. Hello TV has joined us. This is a weekly concert series for artists of all genres, safely filmed in a secure, clean studio. 25% of all the proceeds go to Music Cares and the National Independent Venue Association. This thing was started by Eric Rogers and Paris Vizone. You got to check it out, hellotv.com. The next episode's coming up on Friday, July 24th, 2020. The guest is going to be Jake Clayton. He's playing from 9 to 10 p.m. That's Jake Clayton this Friday, July 24th. Jake is a gifted singer, thought-provoking songwriter, and talented multi-instrumentalist. You got to check it out. Country music fans everywhere are tuning in to check him out. His latest EP release is called Till the Cows Come Home, and it is now available. So you're going to want to check that out this Friday, the 24th. Hello TV from 9 to 10. Speaking of live stuff that's happening out there, you know, everyone's pivoting to do live streaming and broadcasting and whatnot. You may remember the name Chris Wilson. Chris Wilson is the man behind ShowPro Beard Co., another one of my sponsors. And he has also pivoted in this time, so I want to give him a shout out. He has started something new called VIP Live Sessions over on YouTube. He is also filming Safe, COVID-19 endorsed music, man. So head over and check it out. VIP live sessions over on YouTube. Someone else doing some cool stuff on YouTube that you got to check out is front of house engineer, legend, and avid evangelist, Mr. Robert Scoville from Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. He's got a thing he's doing. He's about 8 episodes in now on his channel called The Lab. So if you look up Robert Scoville on YouTube, you will find him. He has got a ton of tour diary videos that he did on the last Tom Petty tour. They kind of chronicle his workout and his process and all that kind of stuff doing sound. And then he's also got this new thing called The Lab that he's doing sort of live from his room, multi-cameras, takes you through his desks and different settings and all kinds of cool stuff. So head over and check that out. People are doing some really cool creative stuff right now. Talk about it every week. It's awesome. Speaking of cool creative stuff, you guys are killing me, man. You're killing me. The No Roadies, No Rock and Roll sticker onslaught against the world to raise money for music cares has just been insane, man. I think we're now up to like $1,500 or $1,600 total that we've raised, something like that. I keep getting orders. I've run out of stickers twice. I've had to reorder stickers twice. The orders are still going out. If you're tuning in and you're like, bro, where's my sticker? Brah. Hey, brah, where's my sticker pack? It's coming, man. I ran out twice trying to get these orders filled. And people then started also ordering, which is amazing, the buttons and the other sticker. Ran out of those. So we're just in a bit of a backlog, but I got to give a shout out to Sticker Mule, who I use for the stickers. Check them out, man. This is not a sponsored ad by them or anything like that. They don't sponsor the show. Their customer service has been amazing, and they get the stickers here in like 2 days or less. 2 days or less. Yeah, like a day. It's been great. So check out stickermule.com if you need any stickers. And also, if you spend over a certain amount, you get a free bottle of their hot sauce called Mule Sauce, which is kind of cool as well. It's tasty, tasty. Anyway, made my first $900 donation to Music Cares. Going to be making more. Just waiting on them stickers. Going to send those things out, man. So sit tight. Your stickers are coming. I promise. Also, if you guys want to do a good thing, you want to do a feel-good thing, head over to GoFundMe.com, Save Tour Supply. GoFundMe.com/Save Tour Supply, and give a few bucks to help Tour Supply out. They have been there for you and us out on the road, and now it's time for us to be there for them. They need it, man. Got to keep those guys in business. Want to let you guys know, also today's episode is brought to you in part by soundgirls.org, working to provide a network for women and non-binary people working in the professional audio industry. Soundgirls provides an opportunity to meet and network with other industry professionals, creating a strong support network while simultaneously providing the tools, knowledge, and support to further your career. So head over to soundgirls.org and become a member today. Meegan Holmes, graduate of California Institute of the Arts. She spent 18 years working for Delicate Productions. In 2016, she was hired to start the Los Angeles branch of the international audio company 8th Day Sound, where she is both the general manager and a sales rep. And she was awesome. It's a good time. Good times. Before we get to that, want to let you guys know one more time, Michelle Pettinato, front of house engineer, is doing her thing over at Mixing Music Live. You got to learn about live sound and mixing from someone who's been the sound engineer for some of the most popular names in music. I'm talking about people like Gwen Stefani, Goo Goo Dolls, Styx, Melissa Etheridge, Adam Lambert, and many, many more. If you want to hear her full episode and interview, it's episode 153. She's taken all of her experience and her knowledge that she's gained over the years and broken it down to the essentials you need to get out there and start mixing. Look, right now, she's offering a 25% discount for listeners of Roadie Free Radio, okay? So use the code ROADIE2020 for a 25% discount. Hit it. Get over there. Mixing Music Live, Roadie 2020. I'm not even getting a piece of that. So just go over, take advantage. I love you. You know that I do. All right. Thank you for listening to me ramble. 175 episodes in. I don't even know what to tell you guys. You rock, though. So without further ado, be safe out there. And here we go. Meegan Holmes.
Hit it. Call yourself a roadie. Call yourself a roadie. Call yourself a roadie.
As I was looking your stuff over, all the extensive stuff about you. First of all, how are you? What's going on?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
You hanging in there?
Yep. Still actually employed by Eighth Day Sound right now. The group of us are all on reduced pay. A good percentage of our hourly team has been furloughed. So it's just our 3 salary employees that were here in the LA office are on, reduced pay. So I'm extremely grateful right now to be still working. There's not a ton going on, and I'm not super busy, but it's all okay. It's all okay.
Does that mean that the rest of these sort of branches of Eighth Day, the other offices, you have one in the UK, right? Does that mean they're all closed right now as well?
Yeah, pretty much. Well, we're open on a need basis only. So we've had some requests for some streaming stuff, some television stuff, and so we've kind of opened up shop whenever we need to.
Yeah.
Our shop is here in LA has been probably, I don't think we're busier than the Australia shop. I think Australia is probably the busiest one. And then us, and I don't think Cleveland, our headquarters, is doing much. And the UK is dribbles much like Cleveland. So we're all kind of reduced teams. We went really lean in order to kind of, keep the company alive. We didn't know how long this was going to go. We don't know how long this is going to go.
Yeah. How much are you guys, and of course at liberty to say, you tell me, how much are you guys like on the, not on the attack, but like on the offense of like trying to be proactive, looking for gigs? Hey, there's a lot of drive-in shit going on. Hey, we can do this, getting it out there. Or is it more of a sit back and sort of see, obviously you want to make money, right? But is it more of a sit back and kind of see what's happening out there and what makes the most sense? Or is it
we have some things put together for our clients if they want to do some streaming from home and need support. We have a little kind of flyer that we've been sending around that shows, the small rack that you can have in your living room if you're a solo artist and want to do like, vocals and guitars or something like that just from your living room. We also have a package that we proposed that has, full production in a rehearsal studio situation where you bring the whole band in and shoot from that scenario. And we have a lot of partners, definitely in the UK and in Los Angeles, that kind of enable us to offer, the cameras, the uploading, the production design itself, if they want lighting features or LED or whatever.
Yeah.
So we've been pitching all of that kind of stuff. I have done a lot of proposals for drive-in stuff, but haven't done an actual physical drive-in yet. I think a lot of people are having a hard time figuring out how to make money off of it. And certainly right now there's a drive-in happening at the Rose Bowl here in Pasadena that it's the Tribeca kind of film festival. And I think it's 4 weekends in July. And they're using a really bright LED product, and they're doing 3 shows a day.
Wow.
But they're doing FM transmission. And our friends over at Clare Brothers are handling that FM transmission, but they're not getting rich off of it. Nobody's making great money. Maybe the LED company might be making some money, but even then I would imagine that the entity that's putting it on probably asked for a deal because it's going to be in for a month, and something better than nothing. I've done some unique kind of solutions for my clients that are more on the experiential side of things. So they already are putting on unique events. They're really coming together and thinking outside of the box. So I've been working with them, trying to help them understand the pros and cons of doing some of the things that they want to do. Maybe, trying to guide them in a way that might help them develop something that's cool. So we have been proactive. As a company, we were very proactive when it came to COVID-19 and protecting our employees. Back probably mid-February is when we really started taking it seriously.
That early? That's pretty early.
Yeah, we're really fortunate. The owner of the company, his wife is an ex-nurse, retired nurse, and she really put her foot down and was like, look, this is a serious thing and we need to be prepared. And I'll give her the lion's share of the credit for kind of getting us up to speed quickly and early. We have, like every other place that has people coming in and out of it, we have our procedures and everything. So but we're not what we were 6 months ago. That's for sure.
So real quick, if you guys started those things in, let's say, mid-February or started getting on it in mid-February, how much later after that was it like, all right, we're just going to shut the thing down for a bit? Was it like mid-March or earlier? I mean, mid-March, like I consider the 13th, Friday the 13th, when we in Connecticut put the kibosh on things. So I'm wondering for you guys, was it sooner than that?
We started strategizing and discussing who might be able to work from home more, and what kinds of hours we needed to pull in order to do the work we were doing. We saw mass cancellation occur in that mid-March, probably I'd say between March 10th and the end of March. We saw everything come to a grinding halt. I started working from home personally. We made it a company kind of thing. March 13th was my first day rolling from home. And since then, I didn't go in for about 3 months, and then started just going in on a need basis, and pretty much once or twice a week I'll go in. But yeah, we started really looking at our scheduling, how many people were in the building, how many people that needed to be there, who didn't need to be there. And I think that was very helpful, because once we started getting into the quarantine, that Monday is when the stay-at-home order came through here in Los Angeles. So and we were ready for it.
That's awesome. I've been asking folks who have companies or working companies higher up in there to tell me, so we'll jump into this part now, is what has this exposed, if you can share again, what has this exposed about, the strengths and weaknesses of Eighth Day for you guys? And have you even had time to sort of reflect on that and say, okay, you know what, when things get back to whatever they're going to look like down the road, let's put this stuff in place so we can do this. Or, man, good thing we've got our boss's wife, our owner's wife, is an ex-nurse, or we would have been screwed. So it's great to have this kind of a thing in place, or not. Like, we really shot ourselves in the foot by doing this.
I think right now we're still kind of in the defensive portion of this whole thing. We certainly are taking advantage of certain things. We accepted a lot of equipment back. Nobody knew how long this was going to be, so we kind of left people's equipment together and in piles. Slowly over time, people have had the reality check of the fact that they're not going to probably tour this year. And when they've pulled the plug and said and committed to 2021, we've, after a period of time of letting the gear sit and kind of, desanitize on its own, we started putting things away. But it took us a while to get to that point where we were like, you know what, we should really get things back into inventory that don't need to be. I think it was such a shock. Yeah, it really was a huge and continues to be a massive blow to, millions and millions of people that do something associated with live production, whether it's security or venue staff or whatever, all of us vendors, the independent contractors, the bands, all of us wounded and still very much kind of licking our wounds from it. We've had discussions about, should we be moving equipment around potentially? Should we just leave it because we don't know how we're going to start back up? What's the wise thing to do? There's all sorts of, proactive type discussions happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we are looking to what we can do this year and trying to at least say, okay, well, these types of shows or these types of rentals or these types of things that are already kind of happening for us, how can we expand on that? How can we cultivate our relationships in these areas? So, how can we get close to the Veeps people, the Dice people, the Melody VR people? How can we take these people that have been doing streaming already successfully and really well for years now? How can we, support them and kind of develop our relationships with them? So those are the kinds of things that have definitely, it's changed how we look at everything. It's changed how we kind of approach the market, where we were predominantly a touring company. Now we've got to start looking at each individual market and see what we can do.
Yep. And you guys, if I understand it, are relatively young, right? You started 2016?
Our branch was started in 2016.
Okay.
The company this year, Eighth Day Sound, is 40 years old.
Okay.
It was started in Cleveland, Ohio. It's only ever had one owner, Tom Marco. We have 2 offices in Australia, 2 offices in the United States, and 1 office in the UK.
Wow.
So he's grown quite an empire, but we're the youngest of the offices. We're the newest branch.
And 2016, I mean, that's not that long ago. And I know that the LA office has had a pretty good amount of growth.
Yes.
Quickly, and it takes a while. I'm working on a documentary up here in Connecticut about how this whole thing's affected the local farming community. One of the farms had 5 years ago, had sort of changed itself into be an event space, and they were killing it. Last year was their biggest year. They were on point this year. They do weddings and all sorts of stuff. And this year they were on point to do twice last year type of a thing. And it all went away except for 2 things. So I know that 4th, 5th year, that's that's the one. It's sort of like a restaurant industry, right? If you make it through the first year, you got a chance.
You got a chance.
It's funny. I can understand the sort of reticence to not put the gear away, as you said, just let it sit there. Probably there's a part of you that's holding on for them. If I put it away, that means we're done for now. If I leave it out in the pile, maybe I can throw it back on a truck and get back out there quick.
Yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense. You've been in this industry a long time, 30, 35 years. I know you've been on tour. You eat and breathe this stuff like so many people. What's it been like for you not to get your hands dirty? And B, after 3 months, when you walk back into the shop, what did it feel like?
It felt like it was frozen in time.
I bet.
Like all those movies you see where, there's time travel or something like that and everybody's frozen in a moment. It really did feel like it was frozen at March 21st. Like going to Chernobyl. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. A place that, and interesting how I was oh, look at that giant orb weaver spider web. Look at, look at how all the little critters are, enjoying our empty warehouse. And
yeah.
Yeah. And really, to me, I felt like we were kind of in many ways going back to how we started out.
Yeah.
Which is, When I started the branch out here, we didn't make any kind of formal proclamation or anything. There was no advertising. I got hired by 8th Day. I ended up having a client move from my previous company to 8th Day. And in between my time between the two companies, I had a show with them. And I needed to support it. And so I called Tom and I said, hey, I've got this show and I don't expect anybody to pay me for it. I just want to take care of the client because I want the client to come with me. How can you help me? And he said, if you can generate an equipment list in the next 6 hours, we can put it on the back of a truck that's already coming out to Los Angeles and get it out there for you. And before I knew it, there was a pile of equipment here. And we were lucky enough to move into one of our clients' warehouses. They gave us a little corner to kind of, get started. And they thought we were going to just roll the gear in and out. And, but it was a very humble beginning. And I got to the point where I realized that things were getting busier and I couldn't do it alone. And with freelancers supporting me, obviously. And so we hired our first project manager out here was Chris Campbell, who had worked with me at Delicate, and we had a great working relationship. And I was really excited to at least start this thing with him and be able to really make it our own and make it what we wanted to be. We had so much support from headquarters and so many great, pieces of equipment to have. I mean, there was equipment there that I'd never seen before or just heard about, and here it is in front of me. I'm able to play with it and mess with it. And, but it was very bare bones. And while, we moved into a warehouse that August, we've hired more people. We're 18 people strong now.
Wow.
At least pre-COVID, and to see this thing grow so massively and then just shrink right back down into just being 3 of us and, figuring out how we're going to operate and not having a whole lot going on, but, not really feeling like we could jump and do something at the last minute. If somebody called me this afternoon and wanted something for tomorrow morning, unless it's something we already have put together, I would have to turn it down. There's just, we just don't have the capacity like we used to. So in many ways, it felt like I was going backwards.
Yeah.
Though we have this building, there was a lot of things getting the building set up, the power situation, shelving, just infrastructure, how the space lays out. And all those things are great, and in place, which is way better from when we began. Yeah. But just, going in and realizing that the 2 people that are standing, 6 feet away from me were it. And that's been kind of hard. It's a little bit saddening, to think about what's going to happen to our team at the end of the month when the, extra money runs out. And really hoping that they extend it for the sake of all the people that I know and care for that are reliant on that $2,400 a month right now. So
yeah,
it was bittersweet. I was happy to go back in there, but also just bummed.
Yeah, I bet. Now, you originally are a Connecticut person? Where?
Born and raised in New Canaan, Connecticut.
Connecticut.
Born in Greenwich and raised in New Canaan because New Canaan doesn't have a hospital.
Right.
So you gotta go to Norwalk, Stamford, or Greenwich to get born. And back when I was born in the dark ages, the only hospital was actually in Greenwich that was nearby.
Right. All right. So I'm an hour north of where you grew up.
Oh, cool.
I'm in, hour and 10, something like that. I'm in the northwest corner.
More towards the Massachusetts border.
Yeah, I'm in Litchfield County.
Cool.
But a lot of friends down in that area, Greenwich, New Canaan, and all that.
Yeah.
So I've put some time in there. So let's talk about growing up down there. And I know you graduated Cal Arts '93, so I'm gonna subtly put you in my age group because I was '94 from college. But we won't call out any numbers to protect our integrities. Great time to grow up. One of the last great sort of live music, bootstrap, do-it-yourself times, right? With Dave Matthews and just that whole circuit and Pearl Jam and everybody coming around. Great time to see live music. Tell me a little bit about growing up for you at that time and in this area. I mean, Stanford, Stanford, Greenwich, New Canaan, not that far from the city. I imagine you put some time in. Maybe you're a wetlands person. Spent a little time at wetlands, seeing some shows. Yep. Tell me about it growing up and how the music thing came to find you.
Well, let's see. My probably youngest involvement with music was, I don't know if the school system's like this still there, but the public elementary school I went to in third grade, they offered up some string instruments to learn. I attempted the viola and hated it. Mm-hmm. The following year, in fourth grade, we were offered up more wind instruments and brass instruments. And I chose saxophone because I thought it was a cool looking instrument. And so that I would say that was literally the beginning and the foundation of my drive in music, my interest in music, and all the education that was driven towards music. That was the beginning, and I was really lucky that the teacher that I had was a great human and super encouraging. I think that often music teachers aren't given enough accolades by kids that played in school that went on to do something in music. Mm-hmm. And I really do appreciate that, Mr. Dunn. And then it continued on, obviously, into junior high, playing in school band and taking lessons, and was also fortunate that my mother was extremely supportive of me playing a musical instrument. When one wasn't available for free through school, she rented me one. She got me extra lessons. She kind of encouraged and fueled the desire mm-hmm. to play, which I'm very grateful for too, especially learning now in my adult years how some kids were just completely discouraged from doing that, yep. which is to me such a horrible travesty, And then, growing up in New Canaan, it's a 55-minute train ride in Manhattan. And New Canaan is very much a commuter town for Manhattan. So that train ran, the last train out was like 1:30 in the morning or something like that, maybe 1 a.m., and it got you into New Canaan at like 2. Mm-hmm. And I started in high school and during the summers going and seeing shows in New York with my friends. The first actual show I went to was Simon and Garfunkel in Central Park in 19.
Damn.
And I was 10 years old. And if you can picture a 10-year-old, they're probably about 4 feet tall. And all I saw were people's backs and butts. Yeah. And I hated every second of it. And I did not care. I went with my mother, and I did not care a lick about Simon and Garfunkel or the experience. I couldn't see anything. And I was so annoyed. So I was just excited when I got older because I was taller.
Right.
I knew that I was going to go see a show and actually be able to see it,
Yeah.
I think teenagers in general are great consumers of music. And I certainly was one of them. I was very proud of, I was very much into more of the alternative music at the time. So what is considered, I saw classic alternative is how one of the streaming stations calls it. It kind of makes me shudder a little bit. But
who's considered classic alternative now?
The Cure.
Okay.
It's, Depeche Mode. And I loved all of that music. And so I would take every opportunity to go and see the these acts. You know, I saw David Bowie several times. I paid to see acts that I've actually worked with in my professional career. I forked out money to go see them, and really loved the live concert experience. And when I went to college, I didn't have an intention of going into the technical side of things. I was still a musician,
right,
and a composer, and not really thinking that I would change anything. But I got about halfway through my first year at CalArts and realized that I wasn't going to make any money being a musician. And I was signing away my student loans, you know, and seeing how much money I was borrowing, and just thinking about the kind of life that I lived. And, you know, obviously New Canaan's a very affluent town. I grew up there at a time where it wasn't as wealthy as it is now. My mom was a single parent. My father died when I was young. She never remarried. But she loved where she lived, and she worked it out. And she always owned property, and she was a good, you know, creative miser, I guess. But we weren't rich, you know?
Yeah.
So, but I knew that I liked the kind of life that I grew up with. And I knew that I needed to make money to kind of maintain that level of comfort. So I had a lot of friends in the technical theater department at CalArts, and they just kind of wooed me into sound design and kind of jumping in with them and being part of their teams of putting together shows and theatrical productions. And I think
on the technical end, or were you more creative during their show?
No, on the technical end, I basically changed my major to a technical theater degree my second year.
Got it.
I did all of the requirements for the music degree, but I knew that I didn't need it to get into the touring industry, which is pretty much where I wanted to go. I had taken all of the roots of me going to concerts when I was 15, 16, 17, and how much I really loved every second of that live show, and realizing that I could do it as a profession and still be involved with music and still listen to music and still have all of that stimulus and all of that input, but not suffer the up and coming throes of becoming a successful musician. I also was good, but not exceptional.
Right.
You know?
Do you remember being at some of those live shows in your, you know, mid to late teens there before you went to college, and I guess through the beginning of college? Do you remember looking around past the artists at, like, who's that person wearing black that just ran out to do that? Who's that guy or gal who's at the front of house position, if you even knew what front of house meant at that point, right? Those things. Do you remember looking at them and going, oh shit, there's a whole other world, and it looks like maybe they are making some money and I could do that? You remember putting that together in your brain?
I kind of had, and I was fortunate. Me and my friends, when I was in middle school, we did summer theater. And my first year doing that, I painted sets, I hung lights, I worked with the audio guy on where he's placing mics, and I kind of, you know, started getting into the stage craft aspect of theater.
You were a theater rat. I was too, so I can throw names around.
Yeah, that's okay. I'll accept it. I'll also call myself a band geek. I don't care.
Yeah.
I think that some of the best, most creative people started out, you know, and actually theater is not a very profitable thing. So when somebody comes up through the theater, you got to have a lot of respect for them, because that means that they really love what they do.
Yeah, for sure.
Just do something and not necessarily get paid for it.
Yeah.
But I was trained to, like, run a spotlight, for instance. And I didn't know that years later, as a stagehand, I would get paid to run that spotlight. And that was actually a valuable skill to have.
Right.
I think, you know, I went to Lake Compounce.
Oh, yeah, man.
And I watched a guy climb up a rope ladder and get into a truss spot. And I must have watched him as much as I watched Peter Murphy for the show. Also watched the front of house engineer not mix the show and dance all over the place, which I couldn't blame him. But on the flip side, I knew that he was supposed to be doing something more. But that I'd say, you know, between summer theater and like that moment at Peter Murphy where I was like watching these people work, I think a lot of that came together and sort of operated in the background. So when I got to college and decided to change my major, it wasn't like this big travesty, you know, or it wasn't this big, hard, you know, heavy-hearted feeling. It's like, no, this is something I've actually been kind of laying the foundation for a really long time.
Yeah.
I think my first Show Blacks photo, I just found it the other day. I think I was 12, maybe 13, you know? So
that's awesome.
Who knows?
But you know, it's invaluable to have all that other experience and to know, especially as you trained as a musician, to know what it feels like as an artist, all of the things that they feel when they go on stage, backstage, you know, prior to the show, all that kind of stuff, because it only informs what you do and how you then interface with them later as a monitor engineer, front of house, like how you talk to them, because you have a level of understanding, you know. It's like, you know, I tell people that want to get into, I was an actor for a long time, but like I said, I took stagecraft. I took all there were requirements, but like I couldn't wait to go in the stagecraft thing and fucking power up a saw. And, you know, I'm not a big fan of ladders, so that wasn't great doing the lights, but everything else was cool, you know, building the sets and even the directing classes. So I tell people that like want to get into the industry, like, yeah, take an editing class, take an acting class, take everything. So you understand, so you understand what everybody does and what they're going through. And B, you may actually find that while you thought you wanted to be a musician or whatever it is, you're better suited. You may gravitate toward doing front of house or whatever, or maybe you're super technical, but when you get a taste of acting, the floodgates open and all of a sudden now you're going to be an actor, you know? Yeah. And it only informs you as a person then ultimately.
Yeah. The beautiful kind of concept of CalArts is they've designed the whole school so that you kind of have to walk through the dance department to get to somewhere. You have to, you know, you walk through a class of actors doing Tai Chi. You see the galleries with all the art hanging in them. And then part of the requirements is you have to take courses in other fields outside of your own. And absolutely, I think it is invaluable to have a perspective on what is happening around you and the hard work that everybody brings to the table. And I don't think a lot of people even understand that before they even walk into the concert, how much work and planning and rehearsal and blood, sweat, and tears goes into making that show what it is. And how many people that maybe aren't on tour but still had a massive contribution into what you see and hear and experience in any kind of live event, actually, I'll say.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
I think it's really important to have an understanding of the moving parts. And I appreciated that aspect of my time in the industry when I was a stagehand, because it showed me kind of the components and the departments that are on tour. It allowed me to not be responsible for anything, but just be helping people, seeing how people chose to communicate, seeing what companies had slick things, you know, and cool gear, seeing, you know, who was kind, who was cruel. All of that was very good for me in the beginning to kind of get a broad understanding, to be able to do ground rigging, run a spotlight, even though I'm an audio person and that's my focus. But to do these other things and to understand the principles of each department, I think is super valuable. Super valuable.
When you got out of school, actually, let me ask you this one. You preceded me. We both had an exodus to California. Mine just came a few years after yours. Why California? Why not stick around the East Coast? Just curious. Why did you flee from Connecticut? I know I did.
I fled from Connecticut actually for high school. I went to a place called the Buxton School in Massachusetts. It's in Williamstown, right in the northwest corner.
Yep.
And it's a performing arts, progressive education, very small school. There were 26 students in my graduating class. On average, there were about 80. I think there were 82 students that year, 4 grades. A lot of it is like history taught through art, U.S. history taught through literature, physics taught through art, music, and kind of taking these creative people and teaching them what they need to know, but tweaking it so that it's interesting to them and not this bland, dry, scientific information. So I was very fortunate to have gone there. That's actually where I learned to write music. David Denhard was my teacher. He retired this year, actually. And David had a huge influence on me as a musician because he spent so much time with me teaching me music and teaching me how to write, that one day he said if he could do it all over again, he would go to Cal Arts. And I was so tired of freezing my butt off in northern Massachusetts and wiping out on the ice and trudging through snow, moving snow, it was just, I'd had enough. I wanted out. And I guess looking back on it now, kind of being a unique person, being a creative person, you aren't really welcome in a very conservative community so much. And so I didn't really feel welcome in my hometown, and I certainly didn't feel comfortable on the East Coast so much anymore. And that's what really kind of pushed me to go to Cal Arts too, and I had been accepted to other universities, actually Berklee College of Music and Oberlin. But I was really super focused on going to Cal Arts, and a lot of that was David's influence. Yeah, I'm certainly glad I did, because I don't think my work trajectory would have been even remotely the same had I moved to Boston or had I moved to the Midwest. Because I started working when I was still in school. Right. I started being a stagehand when I was still going to Cal Arts. So I think that there's a lot of benefit in me coming out here, even though my mother really wanted me to go to Berkeley.
Yeah, I bet.
It's a nice little train ride from Stamford, Connecticut to Boston.
That's right.
He had a dream of me being closer, but also supported my dream of really kind of going to this place that had been talked up so much by somebody that I revered. He was my very first, I would say, solid mentor, and his opinion meant everything to me. So
that's awesome.
That was a lot of the influence, and to just not be freezing cold anymore in the winter.
Yeah. It sounds like you had a lot of good, positive role models and support around you between your mom, David, some other teachers as you got into your more professional career, people that really supported you. As you got out of school, 93, 94, you're starting to look for work now. What was that experience like? And what were you looking for at that point? Was it anything?
I wanted to tour.
Okay. Right.
And I think it was because I had a small group of friends that wanted to tour too, and
well, actually, I'm sorry. Let's back that up for 2 seconds. What was the bridge from I want to sort of move out of theater world and into music, into rock and roll?
My little pack of friends, we started throwing all the concerts and all the big parties on campus. and we would rent an audio system from SIR. And these two guys who I still know, Raz and John. Raz mixes, I think he mixes Michael McDonald, and John Protzko's got a huge TV career now, TV mixer career. But both of them came with the rig, and they were so generous with information. They were fun guys to hang out with, and we would help them. We'd ground stack the PA and run the snake, and they really taught us, how to do a rock show on the audio side. So
how old were those guys?
Huh?
How old were those guys at that point?
Oh, they were young. They were probably in their early 20s.
So they're just like a couple years older than you guys, basically.
Totally.
But they probably seemed like a little bit older, and they came in with all this gear, and you're like, these guys are cool.
Yeah, right? Cooler than me, for sure.
Yeah.
But
again, cool that they were willing to help you.
Oh, yeah.
Here you go, figure it out.
Yeah, they they operated, they mixed front of house and monitors, and at one point I was standing next to Raz at front of house, and he's like, this next few songs, you mix it. Come on, you get in there and move things around and touch the console and try it out, and here's where things are. And he kind of showed me how the effects were and showed me how to use a tap delay and all those things. Like, they were really very kind.
Yeah.
And they had a lot of fun. Like, I think we sent him away one year with a keg of beer. Like,
Of course you did.
It was, one of the bigger parties at Cal Arts, and I think they really enjoyed the party. There's a lot of scantily clad chicks running around, and lots of drugs and alcohol, of course. So yeah, I think they liked coming up and doing those shows too. But they were probably that, like, I really enjoy doing this. I like this energy. And again, it was all of that, like, foundation work that I didn't know I was laying for myself as a teenager, going and seeing, when I was 17, I think I saw 30 shows that summer, and they were a array of different things, everything from like Echo and the Bunnymen, New Order, The Cure, to like, I went and saw jazz. My mom would take me to jazz. She'd take me to classical, and all of those musics all those genres I still really love and always kind of let influence me. So, I was exposed to that live production in so many positive ways and had so many great memories that influenced me. The other thing that influenced me was, the good thing about Cal Arts was it's a very experimental situation. So I did film sound. I did sound for time. In fact, I wrote opening theme music for an on-campus TV sitcom, and all of those things. I tried all of that. I didn't like it. I didn't like sitting in a studio and doing recorded music and nitpicking over things. There are people that live for that, and they should be doing it because they are constantly, dissecting and listening to things in a completely different way. Mm-hmm. I didn't like that. I liked the energy of get the gear in, set it up, do a sound check, do the show, take the gear down, and the making it work and the troubleshooting under pressure and all those things. And I love and will always love the energy of a group of people standing in a room together that are all enjoying this one focused thing, even though none of them really know each other, but this moment they're all related to each other because of this entity that's standing on stage. And that will never grow old for me,
We share the same sort of feeling about that, as I'm sure hundreds of thousands of millions of people do, and the folks listening to the show do, and the music and audio community. I think the same thing now. I think back just a few months, or I've had to go through some footage as I've made some videos for some things and seen footage of when I was at a Tedeschi Truck show, with Bobby Tees and all these other people and just all this stuff. And the rush that you get of being around everybody in this communal experience. And I cannot wrap my head around, is that gone? Is that possibly gone? How can that possibly shift for like hundreds of years? People have sat around some kind of a fucking campfire or something and banged a couple of sticks together and been like, yeah, keep banging your stick together. I'm going to take the, the sinew from this animal and plug it. And we got a band and everyone's listening to it. And it's awesome, right? It's like, I can't fathom, or listening to live, throwing a whatever show you want to listen to or something. You hear something on the radio. It's like, how is that gone? You can hear in the back, like you said, the Paul Simon thing. Like, I remember watching some of that on TV, but I own that double disc and I listened to the hell out of it. And just you hear those. Yeah. Yeah. You hear those sounds right in the background and the people, the dude or dudette in the way in the back screaming something. And you're like, that cannot be gone.
No, I had a moment the other day. I was watching, there's a documentary about Queen. And
I just watched it. I just watched it last night.
So they show scenes at the Isle of Wight festival. I started crying because I saw like everybody standing there together and you could hear people singing over the sound, the volume of the PA, which is still to date one of my most favorite things. And I was like, this is awful. Like, please let us do this again. Please, please let us get back to work, because there is nothing that replaces this. Yeah. And we need it. We need that communal charge. And we can watch a box and see streaming and go, wow, look at that show. Like, oh my God. And I really did enjoy that documentary, not only because it gave us footage from Live Aid, which when I was a kid, my mother videotaped the entire thing so we could watch it.
Yeah.
And I remember those performances and I remember watching that and I remember seeing all those people standing there and then to like flash it forward to a festival that happened, last year and see that same energy and that same number of people and everything. This is, like you said, this is historic. Like, we need to be able to do this again. Yeah. And people need to be involved in it again.
Yeah, for sure. Again, you had a lot of support growing up. You had these two great guys from SIR that helped you and encouraged you and whatnot. You also had, as I understand it from your Sound Girls interview, sometimes when you faced a little adversity, when you called and were trying to get hired and people were like, what was one of the things was we don't hire women because we have to pick up their slack. That was one of them. What was the other one?
We don't hire women for touring positions. You're welcome to come and work in our offices in our warehouse, but we won't put you on tour. And those were people that I was referred to by somebody that knew them. I was not cold calling these individuals. These were people that I had hoped, and maybe they didn't, had laid some sort of groundwork with the person I was calling and saying, hey, Meegan's going to call you. She's amazing. She's totally focused on this. But both shut me down so fast that it was sort of like, okay, maybe nobody called ahead. Because maybe that wouldn't have been a recommendation for me to call them if they had called ahead and heard, no, don't refer me a woman. Like, we don't hire them.
That's fucked up, man. When you got that response, was there a part of you that was like, oh shit, maybe this isn't going to work?
No.
Forge ahead.
It made me dig in.
Yeah.
It hurt me. Sure. I'm not going to lie. It crushed my spirit. But it made me not want to give up. It made me work harder. It made me... Well, part of but doing live sound is a very physical aspect of it. And I didn't ever want somebody to think that because I was a woman, I couldn't do the physical aspect of the job. So I spent a lot of time working out, taking care of myself, lifting weights, getting strong, being referred to as stronger than most of the guys. I took great pride in that because I never wanted somebody, if you wanted to not hire me because you didn't like my personality or you thought my skills weren't good enough, fine, cool. but I never wanted it to be about the fact that I couldn't pull my weight.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that stemmed from the guy that was like, we don't hire women. We find we have to pick up their slack. I was like, oh, I'm in the gym.
I was just saying, I bet you got a lot of mileage out of that one, right? Every fucking rep, you're like, you motherfucker. Listen, I'm curious. I want to ask you, as you then shifted in your life, your career into positions, into a position where you could be hiring people, did that ever come into play where you were like, I'm going to fucking hire this dude. I'm going to hire this woman right here. You know what I mean? Like, did you ever have that? Did you carry that, I guess, the grudge or no? Were you able to compartmentalize that? You also had, again, these two guys. These guys sound great because I feel like I can just picture these two guys from SIR. I feel like I knew guys like that, that were just so passionate into it. It probably balanced out. Of course, I'm answering your question for you, which I shouldn't do, but it probably balanced out that kind of shit, right? I would imagine.
Yeah. Well, no, it's a total yin yang because, on the one side, I've got, people saying, we don't hire women for touring positions or we don't hire women at all. And on the flip side, the stagehand company I worked for, I moved up in the ranks really quickly there because I worked hard. And they liked that because who doesn't mind working with somebody who works really hard? And that's really what I carry on now into my, elder years and my managerial years is I don't care. I want to hire the right person for the job. Mm-hmm. And I want to hire the right person for more than just technical experience. It's also, and I'm sure you've heard this a lot, we're a very intimate group of people. It's your personality too that's extremely important, that carries you through as well. So, I meet somebody that's got an extremely strong resume and we hit it off. That's when I'm like, I want to hire this person. Or I read a resume that is super legit and you can tell it's legit. And I get excited. And I will always give a woman a chance, always.
Yeah.
Always. And I, I've advocated and hired women that aren't very big, that look really petite, but can haul ass. And people love because they work really hard and they know what they're doing. So, there's not necessarily even a bias within my gender where I think that somebody needs to be, in the gym every day the way that I was. That's how I chose my path, but I don't think that it has to be that way for everybody. So, I just give people a shot. And I think that that's all anybody wants. That's all I ever wanted. Both of those people that said those things to me, neither of them had ever met me. Neither of them had seen me face to face. They didn't know anything about me. And yet they blindly said that. And that's the thing that I will never do. Mm-hmm. I will try and learn about somebody. Now, I get a resume and I see on it that there's a lie, goes right into the trash, and I'm not calling that person back. Mm-hmm. I've had resumes sent to me that take credit for things that my friends have done. Mm. So, that's the one side. The other side is I see a resume that maybe is super weak, that doesn't have a lot of experience. There might be a place for that person still. So there's something for everybody, really. Yeah. And it's just a matter of figuring out what the right thing is for that person. And sometimes it's a little trial and error. I've sent some people out on some jobs and it's been like, well, he wasn't the greatest at doing that. It's like, cool. But this person's amazing at doing this thing. So let's keep having them do this thing and show them our ways and try and open up their learning. But I don't prioritize anybody over anyone because of gender or if they're gay but I do really try to give everybody a fair shot.
You've been on tour with Tool, Queens of the Stone Age, big long list, 30, 35 years of doing this. What was the moment? Was there a moment or a few moments, after you were in it for a while where you're either on the bus or you're at some ridiculous venue or something, and you're like, holy fucking shit, I've done it, I'm doing it. Like it's happening, man.
Lollapalooza 97 is the last year that Lollapalooza was a tour. That was my first tour. Tool was technically the headliner, though there was a closing act, and that rotated between Prodigy, Orbital, and Devo. So really, like one would do 4 cities, and then the next would come back and do 4 cities. So Tool was essentially the headliner. At that time, I would say they're probably one of my favorite bands. And I remember sitting at rehearsals in West Palm Beach, and they were doing their sound check. And I had seen them live numerous times. And I remember just my heart when they started playing. I don't even remember what song they were playing. They just started playing. And I remember my heart beating so hard in my chest thinking, I'm sitting on stage. Like, I'm here with them. Like, I'm working for them. And that was the Anima album. And I went on to tour with them after Lollapalooza. And I was so stoked. It didn't matter that I figured out how much I made an hour on that tour. I think I made like $3.07 an hour. I mean, it's literally the least I've ever been paid on tour. And it was the hardest I ever worked on tour for sure. And I just loved every minute of it. I just had the best time and had the biggest smile on my face and got to develop relationships that I still have today. There's still people that, I look back, it's like, man, I've known you for 23 years. Like, wow. and really that's the beginning of kind of forging that path of building and cultivating the relationships. And a lot of that is I attribute to my success now. But yeah, that I definitely sat on that stage. And then the show that we did in West Palm Beach, the very first show of the tour, I just had the best energy all day long. Like, it didn't matter how sunburned, sweaty, humid, tired. There was a tornado watch at one point, and none of it freaked me out or frightened me. Like, I was just so excited to finally be on tour, legit on tour. I had done Weekend Warrior stuff with an act called After 7. And we did a bunch of fly dates together. Those gentlemen, and I call them gentlemen, are people that also fueled my fire because they were so generous and so kind and so incredibly talented. They taught me so much about R&B and soul, things that I hadn't been exposed to. I was exposed to through them. But it wasn't bus and truck touring the way that formal touring is. And so Lollapalooza I consider to be my first tour, even though I did all those fly dates with After 7.
Yeah.
I'm so lucky too. I toured with so many artists that I developed not a huge connection with, but a small connection with. Ones that I had mad respect for, Natalie Cole is a great example of that, where here's this voice that is so familiar and one that I know, and having played saxophone and studied jazz and all of that, and to listen to her sing and just like the most perfect show every night. And like, if we were doing corporate and she was paid 90 minutes, she would play 90 minutes to the minute. Thank you, good night was, 90 minutes in. It was amazing. I'm really lucky that the majority of the artists that I've worked for have all been really incredibly beautiful, talented, kind people. Not everybody can say that in my industry. Right.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. Well, listen, that's a fantastic place to end this on. And, I hope while things seem dark right now, that you can take that memory of sitting on stage with Tool and let that at least help fuel you out of bed in the morning.
Yeah. It will and continues to, just like how I described the Isle of Wight festival, that memory, that feeling of being in the crowd, being on stage, being at front of house and seeing it all around you, feeling people sing, I will take that with me to my grave. And fortunately, I'm able to still work and do what I love while others in my industry are definitely hurting and struggling. So I really thank you for having me on, man. I'm honored to be a part of your podcast. Truly.
Oh, that's cool. I appreciate it. I appreciate you taking the time to do this. And it was great chatting with you.
I'll chat with you anytime, man. Say hello to Connecticut for me.
I will. All right, there you go. There you have it. That is it, my friends. Meegan, thank you so much for being my 175th guest. Folks, we will see you next week for episode 176. I've got tour manager Marguerite in Guin. I cannot wait. It's going to be a great one. During the week, you can follow us at Facebook, Instagram, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, YouTube, and Spotify, all as Roadie Free Radio. Check out the website, roadiefreeradio.com. Send me a note because I want to hear from you. That's info@roadiefreeradio.com. Keep getting those stickers, and in the meantime, y'all be safe out there. No roadies, no rock and roll.